Tottenham Hotspur are close to agreeing a deal for £160 million and £400,000 a week to go to Harry Kane in his proposed transfer to Manchester City. This is according to reports coming out of the Sun newspaper late last night and trending across the sporting world this morning. They suggest that Daniel Levy has given up hope of keeping Harry Kane at Tottenham Hotspur and White Hart Lane next season, and that Harry Kane has had it expressed to him and explained that they will allow him to leave if the right offer has been made. As said, Manchester City are prepared to spend reportedly up to £160 million on the transfer fee and make him the highest paid player in the Premier League by giving Harry Kane £400,000 per week. We're going to delve into that story in a lot more detail. We have spoke to a number of journalists over the last 12 hours to try and clarify this news. Some have agreed and believe the origins of this story, but I have spoke to a couple of other journalists, both from the UK and across Europe, who think maybe this is slightly getting ahead of the gun and is not as close as many are making it out to be. This is going to be one of the transfer sagas that drags on for the entirety of the transfer window. And it's reported that it's highly unlikely that Tottenham want Harry Kane to be returning and playing against them in the opening game of the season. In other news, Borussia Dortmund are very close to landing a very talented young striker in Malen. The Dutchman has agreed personal terms, and it's very, very close to being for there being a total agreement between Dortmund and his current club. This, of course, has speared speculation that Haaland could be on his way out of Borussia Dortmund. This has always been the case this summer. There has always been the possibility that Haaland could be leaving and he could be on his way to Chelsea Football Club. Securing of a replacement and of a new striker is definitely a positive step forward for Chelsea Football Club and the possibilities of bringing the Norwegian to Stamford Bridge. But we're going to delve into all of that and a lot more. We're going to take your calls. We're going to run through the polls. Make sure you've smashed the like button right now. Share the stream on your social media platforms. Here we go. Hello and welcome back to the Football Terrace. I hope you're all doing wonderfully well. An amazing night in terms of transfer news. It's the Harry Kane deal is going to be one that moves on all summer. I think I'm not going to. A lot of people are skeptical of this news, of course, because it came from the Sun newspaper. There's a lot of people telling me this summer the Sun have got a lot of things right. It's difficult for me to know because I don't read the publication with any great regularity. But of course, the big news that broke yesterday is that essentially Tottenham Hotspur have agreed to allow Harry Kane to leave this summer. It is believed, and we'll read it out here. It's easier to read it out than to put it for basis. Harry Kane has reportedly shaken hands on a £400,000 a week deal with Manchester City after Tottenham chairman Daniel Levy caved and agreed to let him join a direct Premier League rival. The 27-year-old striker first signalled his intention to leave back in May before joining up with the England squad. City's opening bid of £100 million was swiftly rejected by the North London club, with Levy only willing to let the player move overseas. He goes on to say that, however, according to The Sun, he says there is no longer the need for Harry Kane to go on strike or to put in a formal transfer request after Tottenham decided to change their stance. It is claimed the forward is now poised to complete a switch to Pep Guardiola's champions for an eye-watering fee of £160 million. Now, what I think needs to be pointed out when it comes to a potential deal like this is it may end up being a deal that's worth £160 million. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But for me, I don't think it's necessarily as true as, I don't think it's as clear cut as the Sun are making out. That's my view. As I said, I spoke to 2 journalists last night that said the origins of the story are relatively true. I spoke to a couple of other journalists who have said there's elements of truth within it, but the article makes it sound like the deal is much further down the line than expected. My personal view in relation to this deal is, I don't think Daniel Levy has outright said 100% we will sell, we're going to let the player go. I think what Daniel Levy has said, if we get an offer in, which is in and around the value of 150, 160 million pounds, we may consider it. I think the elements of the story that are true is that the £400,000 a week contract offer, if he's been offered that, why would he not shake hands on it? He wants to leave anyway, and to be made one of the highest paid players in the Premier League on nearly £20 million per year makes a hell of a lot of sense. So I trust the majority of sources that I spoke to last night. The elements of the deal are true, i.e. the personal terms. Are they fully agreed yet? No. Are they not? Would they not be a problem? Not if they offer those kind of amounts. In terms of this deal being close or Daniel Levy having caved, I think that's an exaggeration of the truth at this moment in time. Is it a deal that's on? Absolutely. Is it a deal that can be concluded? Absolutely. Is it a deal that will come to fruition? It may very well do, but the bid is going to have to be big. £100 million has already been turned down, like swiftly. There was no wiggle room at all from Daniel Levy or Tottenham Hotspur. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, in terms of, someone here says it's fake news, Terry. Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it fake news in that direct way. I think it's certainly an exaggeration. I've read the article and it's where we may be in 4 or 5 weeks' time as opposed to now. I think there's a lot of negotiating to be done between the football clubs. I still think there's a lot of work to be done between Harry Kane and Man City as well. Yes, we'll give you 400 grand a week. Would that be okay? Of course. But, what's the bonus structure look like? Length of contract. He'll want to also understand maybe Pep Guardiola's movements, what he's thinking about doing, etc. Maybe he may not want a Van Persie situation where he joins Manchester City and then in a year's time, Pep Guardiola leaves, i.e. Fergie leaving when it comes to RVP. So a lot to do on this deal. Is the deal close as suggested? My view is not at this time. Can it be done? Is it on? Absolutely. 110% it's on. We're going to delve into Haaland a little bit later, but a few other updates for you this morning as well. As expected, Daniel, I think, there's a lot of journalists now that are playing down James Maddison to Arsenal. Fairly predictable to a certain degree. I think what they've said is that they don't see it developing because it's going to be a stretch on the finances. I'm not surprised to see David Ornstein say that. David Ornstein is a very respected journalist. He's a very smart journalist. And as the likes of Pete O'Rourke and others have said, James Maddison to Arsenal is a difficult deal to get done. It is definitely a stretch on the finances. But that's exactly how Arsenal want it to be reported. It's 100% how Arsenal want it to be reported. Because if some of their tier ones, and I look at Ornstein as an Arsenal tier one, he knows people at Arsenal. If Ornstein is reporting on this as this deal can happen, this deal is going to get done, Arsenal have the money, what are Leicester City going to do? Think about it logically. What are Leicester City going to do? Arsenal do not want it to be said that they've got loads of money. Now, I understand the likes of Dean Jones have said that they can spend between 150 and 200 million pounds, but go back and listen to what he actually said. That's if they sell the right level of player. So if they pick up the right fees, if they get rid of Lacazette, if they get rid of Xhaka for the right money, if they get rid of Willock, if they get rid of Nelson, if they get rid of 3 or 4 players and add up that money, then it's likely that they go and start looking at players like that. If they don't make the sales, then the finances are simply not there to stretch to a player of that caliber. So do I think James Maddison to Arsenal is off as of this morning? No, it is certainly on. Arsenal have received encouraging signs that they can get this deal done. The player believes that Arsenal are going to make a move. But of course, it comes down to finances. David Ornstein is right. But he's going to report it in this exact same way. The same as we've been saying all summer. The tier ones that are close to their respective clubs, in my opinion, are always quite conservative when it comes to information on these deals. If you're an Arsenal fan, would I be sitting there panicking today saying Ornstein said it's going to be difficult? Panic? No, I wouldn't panic about that in any way, in any shape or any form. Also, this morning, Raphael Varane has just arrived, I think, at the training ground, as he is not breaking his relationship with Real Madrid and he's respecting the club and Perez. They know that Man United, he knows that Man United are in talks with Real Madrid and he wants the Premier League experience. Contract almost ready, up to the clubs. Nothing has changed, as we said yesterday, around the Raphael Varane situation. Legalities, payment structures, what constitutes a bonus is all being discussed and then reviewed. And these things don't, you got to remember, this isn't like 3 or 4 men in a room together thrashing it out. It's emails and text messages and intermediaries that work on this. And sometimes United can make a suggestion and it takes all day to get a response. Both sets of people are busy. It's not the only thing they're focusing on. It's well in hand. Varane's happy. United are happy with how things are going. There is quite literally nothing to worry about. He was always going to go back to that training ground and respect Real Madrid as far as things are concerned. It's a very clean negotiation that actually makes things a lot easier for Manchester United moving forward. Let's do some of your comments that are coming in here. Comment says, if Leicester got around 50 to 60 million for Maddison, they would just spend it on better players. I do understand you on that. Madison says he hates Leicester and wants to move to London. I love that. I love that. City versus Tottenham first game and Kane gets a hat-trick. Imagine that. I totally hear that, but it isn't going to happen. My personal belief is if they allow this deal to go through, if they strike a deal for Kane to move away and to go to Man City, it will come after. It will come after that game happens. That's why I don't think it's close also. It would just be horrible. Imagine that if you're a Tottenham fan. Yes, you get a lot of money in for the player, but then he comes back and buries in a couple of goals against you in the opening game. I just think, I almost feel like both clubs are going to want to avoid that situation as well. So I think it's going to drag on a little bit longer. We are going to go to your calls very, very soon as well. Chris here says we've spent 73 million so far. Absolutely. And there's much more to go. You are looking at a fullback. You're looking at strikers. Like I've said all along, I wouldn't be deterred by what's been said in relation to sorry, I'm just trying to turn the sounds off here when it comes to my notifications on WhatsApp, because I do have WhatsApp open because that noise annoys me. So yeah, from my point of view, I wouldn't be worried about the Maddison deal. You're going to spend more money moving forward. Romero to Spurs. Yes, that's practically confirmed now. Chris says, Terry, we've allegedly have 250 million to spend. See, that's a stretch, Chris. It was always between 100 and 150 million plus potential players that you can spend. What Arsenal are doing right now is clever. Don't do a Woodward and tell the world that you have loads of money to spend, because then everybody puts the price up. Golden Ornstein have said it's false. And Leaf, so have I. I say when I say it's false, I'm not going to put down anybody's story particularly. But what I would say is this, like I've just said, I don't think it's anywhere near at the stage the Sun have made it out to be. I don't. So I agree with them completely. I actually spoke with a particular journalist last night, a gentleman from Spain, who said to me, this deal will last until the end of the transfer market. It's not close yet, but you essentially said you are right. It's on and moving forward. And that's absolutely how it is. So I did speak to one other journalist yesterday who said, he actually believes what the Sun have put. It's a lot closer than people think. I just disagree with that individual. So does Alistair Gold and Ornstein at the same time. So obviously we want to give you the chance to come on and have your say. The question is, though, the big question that we've got posed in the poll this morning is, will Tottenham land Harry Kane this summer? 55% of you think no. 55% of you think no. Kane and Haaland are doing a lot of driving to the airport. They're not catching the plane, is what Wizard believes. Comment here from Maria Williams says he is Harry Kane's agent and he's been running his mouth. I think you're all talking to each other. What is interesting is the journalist from the Sun newspaper that put this story out is followed on social media by Harry Kane's agent, who is his brother. So I don't quite know where they've got this story from. Again, though, sometimes these stories are putting 2 and 2 together by a journalist and getting 37. It could be that Man City have said to the representatives of Harry Kane, we'll pay you 400 grand a week. Are you willing to accept it? Yes. It could be that Daniel Levy has told the agents of Kane, we will let you go if we get 160 million pounds in. Maybe Kane's brother and agent spoke to Man City and say, would you be willing to pay that? And they've said, we will work on it and do our best, or we think we can. That information gets fed into a journalist and it gets spread as Daniel Levy caves, personal terms agreed, 160 million pound poised to happen. It's a play on words. A lot of work needs to go into making all those things happen. It isn't as simple as just like putting in a bid is easy at the end of all the work, but there's a lot that goes in before it. So do I think there is some truth to the story? Yes. But do I think it's as clear cut and as clean as the Sun have made out? Not in a month of Sundays. Do I expect the likes of Gold to play it down? Yes. Do I expect Ornstein to play it down? Yes. The same as the Maddison deal. But just keep your eye out for this. It's definitely not closed. It's going to go on more this summer. Expect another bid. I wouldn't even, by the way, expect City to just jump straight from 100 to 160 million. I expect them to put another bid in that's more than 100 and less than 160. You're going to chance the arm. It's not going to be an official bid because everyone gets really sensitive about that. But there's going to be another bid. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. So there we go. Let's have a look at some more of your comments. We are going to go to your calls. Journalists regurgitating speculation that's been fed is not healthy for anyone. Well, listen, I enjoy it. I enjoy reading the story and then debating with people. Is it true? Is it not? What's happening? I love it. I think it's a brilliant thing to do. So for me, I disagree. It's great. Terry, what's your opinion? Do you think Haaland will sign for us? Borussia Dortmund are closing in, and I'm going to quote here Fabrizio Romano. He said that Borussia Dortmund are at the final stages to sign Malen on a permanent deal from PSV. Last details are to be fixed. Personal terms are agreed. The agent is Mino Raiola. Now, again, we could put 2 and 2 together here and get 137. And that isn't what I'm doing. My fervent belief all summer has been that Haaland to Chelsea is on. My belief all summer is that Haaland to Chelsea can happen if Chelsea put the right bid in. The fact that Borussia Dortmund have signed another striker is undoubtedly a positive step forward for Chelsea Football Club because it means there is cover in that position should they be able to get the deal done. It means that they were right not to bid the full amount too early because now there could be a little bit more pressure up. Maybe Haaland thinks there's cover here now. Malen's come in, top quality player, lots of potential. Maybe now a bid, maybe not quite as high as 150 million, maybe 135, maybe 125. Might be able to tempt things, might be able to speed things along. Still a lot of work to be done for Chelsea Football Club. The deal is still on. You will get, again, I wouldn't be surprised in the next few hours if you see a tier 1 close to Chelsea journalist say, Malen being signed is no indication that Haaland's going to leave. It's just like clockwork. You'll get it in. Dortmund want that to be put, and it's probably going to be Dortmund that put that news out. It probably won't be a Chelsea tier 1. It will probably be somebody connected more to the continent than the UK. Because Dortmund don't want that truth to come out. The same as Arsenal don't want to talk about having the money to buy James Maddison. Why would you do that? Why would you don't show your hand in these kind of negotiations publicly. You play down, play down, play down, play down. So that deal was still on. If I'm a Chelsea fan, would I be getting out the bunting and go, oh, we're getting him, it's happening? Slow down. It's not at that stage either, but it's a positive step forward. For me, James Maddison to Arsenal, Harry Kane to Man City, and Haaland to Chelsea right now are in the hands of the buying clubs. If the right size bid comes in, all three of those players would switch to your respective football clubs. I'm not going to go all Sun newspaper and talk about them being days away. Have they all moved closer in the space of the last week? In my opinion, absolutely, categorically, yes. But there is still a lot of work to do. And that work comes in because teams chip away at trying to get the right price for a player. And that is sensible. Imagine paying £30 million more than you have to. That's lunacy. It's lunacy. Why would you ever do that? So that's the update on those deals there. Any questions you've got, get your super chats in, get your member comments in, but make sure you've smashed the like button for us this morning as well. And remember, listen, I'm not in the know. I don't speak to anyone at the clubs. I know a few agents. You obviously know that I know a few journalists. We've got a few more new journalists coming on the show pretty soon as well. We're just negotiating times with them. We're also going to be having the ex-West Ham employee on the football terrace. Very credible guy as well when it comes to transfers. These are the people that I speak to get the information from, what they've heard. A lot of them, it's very nice of them. It's the deals we have. I'll ask them a question. They'll go away and speak to their contacts at clubs and feed the information in. I'm not as loyal to the football clubs as some of these journalists are. So I'm very fortunate to be given the information that they're not willing to share. But they're like, this is what I've been told. Do with it what you want. I just believe in giving the most accurate truth I can, but the most realistic truth that I can to fans. And that's why when I see what David Ornstein, I know what David Ornstein has said. It's going to be a stretch on Arsenal's finances. But it can happen if they want to stretch them. They can stretch them. It's a stretch, but they can stretch them. If Arsenal, I don't buy into the PR of these football clubs. It's too much of a stretch. It isn't. You just decided not to pay it. If Arsenal don't bid for Maddison, it's because they're not prepared to pay the money that's being demanded of them. Facts. If Chelsea don't bid for Haaland, it's because they're not prepared to pay the money to land him. Facts. That's all it comes down to. If Man United walk away from Varane today, because they're not prepared to pay the £50 million. That's it. Because the player wants to join. It's down to when the player says I'm joining and the selling club has a price they're willing to accept, it's about the purchaser. Not the vendor, not the player. Facts. But of course, certain journalists connected to certain clubs are never going to tell you this. Why? They're not going to slag their club off when they don't have to. Yeah, they're going to lose that exclusive. Why would you do that? That would be stupid from them. Terry, you have to research more about Romero to Spurs. He is a world-class centre-back. Spurs will have a better transfer window than Arsenal. Damsgaard is also linked. That's from Avi Troops. I did actually, after last night's show, read a bit about him, and I didn't realise how good he was because I don't follow Serie A. And as I said last night on the football terrace, pending Kane staying or going, legitimately, Spurs have made 2 signings in the last couple of, I know they're not done over the line, but they're pretty much where they need to be in the last couple of days that have made me stand up and take notice as a rival fan. They've got an excellent manager in Nuno as well, no doubt about it. Cedric says, Terry, I think Haaland won't leave this season. The new striker will be embedded in over the new campaign. And if I am correct, then Man United will have a big chance of getting Haaland next season. Every club will have a chance of getting Haaland next season if he doesn't go to Chelsea this year. £65 million is a snip for one of the top 2 or 3 strikers in the world, a man that will win a Ballon d'Or, a man that will score more and more goal-scoring records around Europe. He is the next big thing in terms of goal-scoring in football. That's why Chelsea, in my opinion, have to break the bank this summer. They are selling players left, right, and centre. They are raising money to try and get this deal done. It's imperative Chelsea do it. And I know Chelsea fans are not going to like me for saying this, but I think there are potentially bigger legacy-style clubs that Haaland's attracted to that may come in from next summer. It could be a case of Chelsea not letting the parade pass them by. Thank you very much, by the way. Brand new member, Man Like Web Creatives, signing up and becoming an official Academy member of the Football Terrace. But let's please get that like button smashed this morning. Let's get that done right now. Get your super chats in. I didn't have a chance yesterday because I wasn't here, but I have all the names now down on paper to do our prize draw for June's shirt. I've already started doing all the names and super chatters for July as well, just to make sure that I get that one out swifter. So remember, any super chats over the value of £5, you go into the prize draw to win a football shirt of your choice. I will do that draw later on this evening. Of course, we're going to be doing the tiering show later for you to pick the top 6 legends of all time to go into the hat for our Muriel at Unit 7, the new studio we were in yesterday for the Football Terrace. But I'm going to start going to some calls here. First on the show, I want to go to Bailey Wheeler. We're going to get onto the terrace this morning to have his say. Bailey, welcome back to the terrace, mate. What's on your mind?
Morning, Terry. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very, very good. What are you here to talk about?
I'm here to talk about Kane and the whole saga. Obviously, it's a big deal this summer. We all know that. And you're right. I think 100% this isn't anywhere near done at all. I think this is all media talk. The paper, they're making a mint off this. They're making an absolute mint off this. And I reckon that Charlie Kane, or his agent, had taken a little snippet of information and blown it way out of proportion. I think that's what's happened. I think he's probably. I think fairly similar to you in the fact that either Levy's gone. All right, we'll accept a bid in that region, and then you can go. Or Man City have gone in for him and said, look, we'll offer you 400k, and will you join? And that's all that's happened. It's nowhere near close. It's nowhere near done. I think it's ludicrous. They've gone out and publicised this, and now all the Spurs fans are stressing and all this sort of stuff. Just chill. He won't be gone by the start of the season, I promise you.
I don't believe it. I agree with you on that element there. What's really funny is obviously I posted the link to this stream and I put in what the reports are, and I said that we've got an exclusive update on this situation. My next tweet in the thread that I put out like just after 9 was Kane to Man City is on, and I do believe it's on. However, the notion that the transfer fee in personal terms are agreed is untrue at this stage. And most of the replies I'm getting is, Terry, it's all been confirmed as fake. I'm like, did you not read the tweet that you're actually replying to? It's, and when I say fake, I don't think it's fake. I think it's been sensationalized. I think that the way they're talking this transfer up, it's like we're in the final stages when actually it's like it's how you want to play on things, poised to make a bid. They ain't poised. They're not going to go straight in at 160 anyway. They're going to do. Like you saw the news that came out yesterday that Man United bid 40 plus 5. I believe we did, but it was one of them informal, non-official bids, and it was probably days and days ago. And they were like, "No, we won't accept that." Okay, 42 plus 5, and you just edge your way up. Now, if we want to, it depends on what we want to do. It depends if you want to consider all of those things bids, or whether you want to call those things negotiating, or if you get where I'm coming from. And this is where the semantics of transfer news has really grated on me this year, is you'll see Chelsea make their first offer in for Haaland, and it was reported as a bid, and then it was shut down. We haven't bid yet. Yeah, but you've sounded out whether these deals would be accepted. They amount to the same. They amount to the same thing. It's because everybody wants to try and avoid the embarrassment. Oh my God, you put in 6 bids before you got one accepted. Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of normal. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of normal. But for me, I am in agreement with you. I agree with. I haven't listened to everything that Ornstein has had to say on this. I just think I wouldn't say it's outright fake news. There's no truth in any of it. I just think it's being pushed out like it's about to happen rather than still at the early stages. And there is no way he's playing against Tottenham in the opening game of the season. They're just not allowing that to happen.
Exactly. I'm glad I've come into this today, and I've seen a lot of the comments as well saying the exact same thing, to be honest with you. What I'm worried about is there's a lot of Spurs fans, like when we do it a lot of the time, especially with Kane and big players like that, who panic. We panic. As soon as a bit of information comes out, they all go, it's happening, it's happening. When actually we need to calm down, think about it. David Ornstein's come out and said that Man City have also been surprised by this news. So what does that tell you? If City are coming out saying they're surprised by this information, it's not as close as they're saying. Like, everyone needs to get their heads around that. It kind of frustrates me a lot as well, because it puts pressure on Kane now. It puts pressure on the club, which isn't really needed because we've got a lot of pressure on us anyway. But what I'm also about to say as well is, if it happens, 160 million, I'll take it. To be honest, 160 million is a lot of money. And with Romero coming in for, they reckon, around 50 million euros overall, I'm really excited by that deal. Spurs are making some really good noises. We've got Dane Scarlett, who a lot of people will know, a lot of people won't know. Wicked youngster. And I think he will go on to be as good, if not better, than Kane. Heard it here first.
Yeah, listen, and I think Spurs are looking at some really good business now. I think Spurs, I'm not surprised Man City are shocked by this, because Man City don't want it going out into the ether that right now at this stage of the summer, when they're also looking at Jack Grealish, that they're willing to spend £160 million cash. I think sometimes, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to any tier ones, but they also do, and I get why they do it. And by the way, I am no martyr. If 5 or 6 big football clubs come to me and say, Terry, can you push the news we want? And on the top of that, we'll let you interview a number of our players each year as exclusives on your channel. From a business perspective, I'm going to do it, because it isn't fake news that the club pushing out. It's just their truth of it. And this is what I've noticed with the transfer market. It's all become about my truth, your truth, their truth. No one's actually told, very rarely, the ultimate truth or what's actually going on. Man City are trying to sign Grealish and Kane. What do you think Villa are going to do if they get legit win? If City come out and go, yeah, we've got £160 million cash in a bag. Leicester, Villa are going to say, right, where's our money?
Let's pump that price up.
Fans have just got to forget what the Sun have said to a degree, and even what some of the others are saying, and look at the reality in the middle. Neither Spurs or Man City want this news coming out in this way. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if the agent has pushed this. If you notice one bit of the story that's being ignored, is this line. I want to read this line out in this story. And this was the one that stood out to me, that made me stand up and take real notice. This bit here. Where's it gone? I need to read this line out because this is important for me. There is no longer any need for Harry Kane to go on strike after Tottenham decided to change their stance. That is a very, very indirect way of saying cave or we go on strike, without saying we go on strike. It's a very clever way, because the club will sit there and digest this news. They'll reach out to the journalist and say, where'd you get this from and why? That's how it's done. Public negotiations. I think it's a part of a power play move from Kane's camp as well. And that bit isn't really focused on. It's just, and these are the things that are obvious about it. But of course, no one's going to, again, certain journalists are not going to say that. Why? They don't want to annoy Harry Kane in his camp. They want to get an exclusive interview. They want to know do you get what I mean? It's like everyone's playing it down. For me as a football fan, I've been doing these transfer stories too long to not see it. It's just that's like yesterday with the Varane bid. I said before anyone, without even checking with anyone credible, you're going to get people come out in an hour or two and say this ain't true. What if Fabrizio come out and say it ain't true? Why? Because it's the game. It's the fucking game. It's the way the game works. You know what I mean? Madrid want their fans to think that we're fighting tooth and nail to get the best amount of money possible. So they're going to release that. It's crazy. Listen, Bailey, thanks very much, mate, for coming on. It's always great to talk to you, mate. Look after yourself. Speak to you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're smashing that like button right now. Member chats and super chats we're focusing on. We are going to do a little bit more of that to pay homage to our members that support the terrace. Of course, keep yourselves in the comment section. Make sure like buttons are being hit. Terry, is Fabrizio Romano overrated? No, but he's a businessman. He's a businessman. And I believe if he spoke to a credible agent today and was told the full truth, but was asked to not reveal it, he wouldn't reveal it. If he then just goes no and does it, he'll burn. How you build relationships in this industry is by holding on. I get information sometimes from certain journalists. And I say, can I speak about it? And they say, not until after my article has come out, or not until I get confirmation from an agent that I'm allowed to share it. I then don't talk about it until I get that confirmation. If I do, I burn that relationship. That's stupid. That's stupid for what I'm trying to build here, right? So sometimes you have to kind of just toe the line somewhat. That's all it comes down to. Maria Williams says, yeah, like I say, his brother has been running his mouth to push it, is what Maria Williams says. Let's see a few more of these comments here. Get some questions in for us. That's what I'd really like to know. Marble Halls says, it's often smoke and mirrors, and PR clubs always manage information. Of course they do. And that's why I say, don't take any one person's word as gospel. I saw yesterday a report about something going on, and someone was like, Fabrizio hasn't said this, so why are you saying it? Because other journalists get information as well, you know. So don't just hang on every word that Fabrizio says, hang on every word that Dean Jones says, hang on every word that Ornstein says, listen to what they say, and then think about your experiences as a football fan and what has happened in hundreds of other transfers that come before these, and then make an educated, and then give yourself almost like an educated, I wouldn't use the word guess, but an educated thought on what's actually going on. Is it likely to be like the Sun have said no? Is it likely to be, Man City and Spurs this morning are surprised that this deal's being spoken about? No. Like, why would it be? We're going to get the Winter Surfer on next to have his say with us this morning. Welcome back to the Terrace, mate. How are you?
Yeah, well, good, Terry. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. What do you make of the news in the last sort of 12 hours or so with Kane and Man City, and of course Malen now on his way to Borussia Dortmund? So of course we know that the Haaland deal is on, but a lot of people will put 2 and 2 together and get 137. Give me your thoughts, mate.
I think that Malen, first of all, the Malen news, I think people might try and link it more to a Sancho replacement than a Haaland replacement, because they've probably seen we can play out wide as well as going up front. The proof's in the pudding, isn't it? Everyone's waiting for the bid to go in. If it does go in, it's only going to go in, like you say, if Chelsea know it's going to be accepted. I think for all the Chelsea fans, I think they just want to see either we're going to go for it, or if they're not going to accept it, let's get some other transfer business done. Let's see if Lukaku's done, or let's just do something, because as you've probably seen, Terry, in your own shows, the Chelsea fan base, they're just thirsty for a transfer to be done, whether it's Tchouaméni, whether it's the divisive Rice transfer. I think they just want something done so they can actually talk about something else apart from Haaland, a potential Haaland move. I see it maybe as a good step in the right direction, but actions speak louder than words. And you probably found this out, Terry. This Haaland transfer, just getting information out. It's like getting information about a military exercise or a plan or something like that. You just can't get that. You just can't get exact information. It changes every day, and it's very weird. I mean, Sunday it was like, I don't know if you saw Sunday. It was like, oh, he's definitely staying, and then Monday it was like the complete reverse. Chelsea are in for him, and then you get these Lewandowski things that have come out as well. I don't know if that's to like you say, shoot across the bow of Dortmund and go, listen,
Yeah, it's like I say, we obviously deliver news here on the Terrace, but if people just read our headlines or they don't listen to the videos, they'll often think that every day we're providing new news. You'll know, because you're a regular viewer. Half the time we come on and say, "Yep, this is what's been said," but that isn't the case. Relax, nothing's changed, and and then we talk about other things. And I think that the Haaland news, it just, until you put another bid in, or until you will or offer or inquiry, whatever word we want to use, until that happens or you pull away, there is no major step forward. Do I think them signing Malen is a positive? Absolutely, because yes, he can play. He can play on the left hand side. I was looking at his statistics this morning. In his career, 106 of his games have been as a striker, and like 44 have come on that left hand side of the attack. So yeah, he splits there, but predominantly a striker. It gives you a bit more wiggle room because there's cover in the club. Does that make sense? At the same time, it's Chelsea still need to put the bid in. Like, what's not changed from the likes of Fjortov and Fabrizio is, if you put 150 in, it's likely to be accepted. It's down to Chelsea. That's it at the end of the day. Like, I don't think there's any getting away from that, like some people want to suggest. And of course, you're going to try and drag it down, and let's see what happens with it. But are you getting concerned at all yet as a Chelsea fan that you haven't made any signings and we're sort of 3 weeks away from the league kicking off?
It was always going to be 2 or 3, maybe maximum 2 to 3 signings, like one major and then maybe a couple of squad, like maybe like a new backup goalkeeper, maybe someone in the midfield. But remember, we got a lot of players coming back from loan as well that Tuchel has never trained or anything like that. So there could be some redemptions in there. I always thought it was going to be this because we signed 6 to 7 players last year. And that's out of the ordinary that we've done business before. I'm not getting concerned. I'm getting I think for some percentage of the Chelsea fan base, just for their mind that we need to sign someone so they can talk about something else other than Haaland, because that is the dominance that he has over the Chelsea fan base, that we've not even signed him, but we talk about him every day. I just think what this would be in the future, this for Chelsea fans when it comes to transfers, they can always fall back to this and learn about being patient about a transfer and not to get too overwhelmed, over emotional. That this is Chelsea. They've always been relatively. This is the pace they usually go with some transfers. If you remember the Havertz transfer last year, from start to finish, I think it was like a month, right? Something like that, altogether.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. I mean, I'm used to the pace now since Romano Fabrizio's been in. I just wait until as soon as Chelsea announce it on their own website, I know we're going to sign the player. That's it. Because like you said, personal terms would have already been done before the official bid's even gone in. So just a matter of time, essentially. I just don't want them to announce Adama Traore before they announce Haaland, because I think the Chelsea fan base will handle it.
Yeah.
You see a collective head explosion on Twitter, they'll just go like that. But, you know.
No, I totally get that. Listen, great call, mate. Great to speak to you again, buddy. And we'll speak to you again soon. Top man. Thank you. Some breaking news to bring you right now. An update from Jan Fjørtoft in relation to Leon Goretzka has just been posted. I want to read this out to you. Via the podcast Bayern Insider, who he said is a great source. He says Goretzka wants to stay and has 1 year left. That's important to know. He wants to stay. Apparently wants 20 million euros a year, like Bayern's big earners. Apparently Bayern only offered 12 million euros. It says agents and advisors of Man United have offered Goretzka more money than Bayern. That's simply it as it stands right now. Now, he does want to stay. And you've got to look at it from this point of view. There was a point where Varane wanted to stay at Real Madrid, but he wasn't offered the money. So he started to look elsewhere. And then he got enthralled and excited about the idea of trying something new. Goretzka to Man United, or Goretzka leaving Bayern Munich at this point is a long way away. It's definitely worth Manchester United exploring. It's definitely worth Manchester United not jumping into bed too quickly with another midfielder, unless, say, like if we don't get Goretzka, we're definitely going for Ruben Neves. I'm just throwing these names out here, but Ruben Neves is about to sign for Arsenal, and we're nowhere near getting clarification on Goretzka's situation. That may change. You might go, let's not miss out on Neves because Goretzka's a long shot. But at this point, with no major movement about Ruben Neves, although I have been told by one of the journalists I spoke to last night, there could be a big update very, very soon about Ruben Neves. So let's wait and see what happens there. Goretzka to Man United, it's a long shot and it's a long way away from being in any advanced situations. What's going to be interesting to see is the response Bayern give to Man United offering more money and Goretzka wanting 20 million euros a year. Because if Bayern don't budge and say it's 12 million max, 13 maybe at a push, but Man United offered 15, 16, and Goretzka says, fine, I'll leave, that's when the situation changes. So I would say when it comes to Goretzka, don't allow yourselves to get too excited until we see what Goretzka's response or what Bayern's response is to Man United's offer. And then on top of that, how Goretzka reacts. They could offer him 14 million and Goretzka says yes and agrees and signs and it's all done. It's all over. Man United are not heavily involved. Why would you not make an offer when you need a new midfield player? It's a watch this space, but it's a don't get excited at all. Just as we said on the terrace the other day. Thank you, Jan, for that update for the world to see. A super chat here says, who were the six Chelsea signed last year? Chilwell, Kai, Werner, Mendy, Silva. Who was the other guy? Who else did you sign? Ziyech. Top of my head. Not bad, eh? For not being a Chelsea fan. Remember all your players that quickly. Make sure that like button's been hit this morning, ladies and gentlemen. A recap for anyone new that's tuning in. Big reports last night that Harry Kane was poised for a move worth £160 million plus £400,000 a week to Manchester City. This is not true in its entirety. This isn't as close as the Sun have made out. It's a deal that is on, though. It's a deal that is ongoing, and it is a deal that is likely to run until the end of the transfer window. It's on. City are working on it, but the reports from the Sun are not 100% accurate. Aside from that, Borussia Dortmund have signed on the precipice, on the edge of signing Malen from PSV and taking him to Borussia Dortmund to play in the Bundesliga next year. This is a positive step forward for Chelsea Football Club, but their situation between Haaland, them, and Dortmund remains the same. They need to place an adequate bid. They have put forward a couple of options so far with players plus cash. These haven't been accepted by Borussia Dortmund. A new deal, a new potential bid is being worked on in the background by Chelsea. Expect to see movement on that in the coming days or weeks. But it is a positive step forward. There is that cover in there now. Chelsea still want the player. It's just down to them putting together an accurate bid. I'm going to do some more calls with you all right now. Cool. Just some breaking news being passed on to me here. Just going to pick up Shannon. Jax is in bed. Listen out, please. It's the breaking news. My son's asleep. Like a newsroom. There we go. If he wakes up, I will have to end the stream. So I'm going to be a little bit quiet as not to wake him because he's having a little rest up. Let's go to some more calls here this morning. I'm going to go. Not seeing this guy. I was actually thinking about this guy yesterday and I haven't seen him in a bit. I hope he's okay. Abs is back with us. Morning, Abs. Welcome back to the terrace. I know you're a Chelsea fan, but I want to ask you, do you get the feeling that Harry Kane could be on his way this summer to Man City? And if so, could that be the trigger to make Roman put this big mammoth bid in for Haaland?
Well, first off, Terry, what's going on? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very, very well, my friend. I'm very, very well. Thank you.
Yeah, long time no see. But you see what it is with Harry Kane. It's obviously Harry Kane's been he came out with the interview a few weeks ago talking about, you know, what's it called, how he wants to play in the Champions League, how KDB is one of the best players he wants to play with. So I think that although it's not as likely as what people are making it out to be, I think he could end up going to Man City in the end because they do have a history of not really spending ridiculous amounts of money, not in total, but in terms of per player. So I think the record transfer fee to this day is Rodri, if I'm not wrong, or Ruben Diaz, one of the two.
Yeah.
So what it is with them is it could maybe be this is the point where Man City really announced themselves as like we're the real top dogs in Europe now, even though they probably are. So they're probably already, sorry. So they may end up just saying, you know what, let's go get Harry Kane to him. Not so much because we need him, but also to make a statement to the rest of Europe, like we're coming for everything next year. And you're right. I do think that Don Roman is going to end up pulling the trigger on signing Erling Haaland because obviously we're a club about winning league titles. And when's the last time we've really been in the title race? 2017, we went under Conte. So for me, if City go and get Harry Kane and then we go get Erling Haaland as almost as a response to what they've done, then I think you could see a very, very close title race next season. But yeah, I do think the whole Kane thing could be used as a little trigger to start getting Roman's act together and the club's act together.
Yeah, and do you know what I think as well? What I think is really important for people to sort of remember is like, and I want to say this in the right way and be respectful. If Harry Kane goes to Man City for, say, 110 million, I'm just throwing a lower number out than what's being quoted. It will also drive as a barometer for Chelsea to push the price of Haaland down even this summer. However, if he goes for 160, it leaves Chelsea in a position where for a player that's scoring at the same rate and that's much younger with sell-on value, you're not getting Haaland any cheaper, if that makes sense. So I kind of look at those deals as they're almost a little bit yin and yang. They're almost in conjunction with each other, and this happens a lot. You know, you've got deals that are going on now. Don't be. Let's not be twisted here. You've got the Jack Grealish and Maddison situation going on now. Jack Grealish is considered better than Maddison. England squad, you know, it's slightly, you know, it's City chasing him rather than Arsenal. But there'll be an element of both the selling clubs in that situation watching each other. If Maddison goes for £70 million, Jack Grealish has to be, like, Villa are going to say it's 90 million then. He's definitely £20 million better in their view. But if I'm not saying he will go this cheaply, but if Arsenal do a deal which is 45 million, 50 million for Maddison, it makes it easier for City to drive down the price of Jack Grealish. And this is how transfers work. The valuation, yes, there's a true science that goes to it, but it is based on what other players go for. If a world-class centre-back with 3 years left on his contract is sold for 80 million, that becomes the going rate for world-class centre-backs. It's just the way it is. And I think that needs to be considered in all of this as well. It's why these big transfers take a long time. Teams sit back and they wait and they hold back, which is very, very normal indeed. In terms of the Haaland situation, where's your head at with it as a fan? Do you think it's going to happen?
You know what? There's two sides of it. There's the optimist, and then there's the pessimist in it. The pessimist says we're not going to sign him because we've been talking about this guy for months now, since the end of the Champions League final, when, obviously it would be Man City. But there's a part of me which thinks we're not going to sign him. There's a part of me as well that does think we're going to sign him, because if you look at it last year as well, even Winners haven't mentioned it earlier, look at Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz was a deal on a much lower magnitude. We signed it for £70 million, but it took more than a month. It took heavy negotiation, and it took just before the start of the season for us to get it done. So in that perspective, that's where I do have a bit more trust in my board, especially as, if you remember last year, Bayer Leverkusen, they wanted around 105 million pounds for Kai Havertz, and we ended up getting it down to 70. So that's also one thing that could make me a bit more confident that we could get Haaland at a lower price, because Dortmund won 150 to 160 million pounds for Erling Haaland. It could end up being 110 to 120. Yeah. So in that sense, I'm slightly a bit more confident, just based on the fact that when everyone was talking about Kai Havertz last year, we ended up getting it done at a much lower price than was originally expected. So yeah, it's a case of we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I totally understand that. I think Chelsea fans just need to remain relaxed. No one's guaranteeing that it's going to go through, but I do feel like it is what it is. So more, listen, thank you very much, mate, for coming on and having your say. I really appreciate it, buddy. Top man. Thank you. Some more breaking news. It's official here. Heung-min Son has signed his new contract at Tottenham until June 2026. He wanted to stay. Fabrizio Paratici completed the deal together with Daniel Levy. So Son is officially staying at Tottenham Hotspur. They're signing Romero. They've got young Gil coming in. Some real talent going into this Tottenham team. They've got Nuno. Depending on what happens with Kane, i.e. who they bring in, who they then sell on top, could be very, very interesting indeed. Members, super chatters, get your comments in, get your questions in this morning on the Football Terrace. Harry Kane to Manchester City. Some hugely fabricated stories this morning circulating, both from the positive and negative angle of this. It is on. It is a work in progress. It could happen this summer. It's going to trend along, though, and be a continuing saga. Strap yourselves in. Same as the Haaland deal that's moving forward as well. A lot of talk about James Maddison this morning as well. A lot of people saying bad news has been delivered. I wouldn't necessarily take it as bad news. Ornstein has said, by the way, he can't see it as developing. That is also an opinion piece. He actually goes on to say here, so he said on TV, James Maddison is not one that I can see developing. It would be a huge stretch on Arsenal's finances and not realistic. Fair opinion. He's responded to somebody's comment, and he has said here that not easy to explain in short. Answer live on the air. He says Emil Smith-Rowe is now rightly the priority at 10. So whilst Arsenal are still looking to recruit in that area to compete and support him, I'm not sure they'll go to the level required to sign Maddison. Didn't say they don't have the money. So that's interesting again there. So he's actually now confirmed that it isn't about the money as everybody was proposing at the start. So he's given some clarification. What he's saying is they might walk away now. He might walk away now because Emil Smith-Rowe was signed. That makes it very, very different. People saying they haven't got the money for him. Very, very important to look at. Maybe all the encouragement that they gave, all of the inroads that they made, were because they weren't sure if Emil Smith-Rowe was going to sign. Maybe it was all a contingency. Maybe that's the case. And now that Emil Smith Rowe's here, that they might go, let's put this money into a top-class right back. Let's put this money into a top-class striker. This is how the transfer market works. As we said the other day, Arsenal received encouraging signs from Leicester they could get a deal done. The camp of James Maddison, as via the AFC Bell, felt that this deal would move forward. Nothing is stopping Arsenal from changing their mind. Now, David Ornstein's given us an opinion here as well, by the way. He hasn't said, I spoke to my contacts at Arsenal and they told me that it's unrealistic now because Emil Smith Rowe was signed. He's given you an opinion based on his experiences, and I respect that. I respect the opinion that's coming from him. Doesn't mean it's over, it's done, it's out. There was talk yesterday about maybe Maddison playing a little bit deeper. Maybe there's a case of saying, well, actually, we want to have more of a rotation in the way we play. Maddison drifts out to that left-hand side quite a bit. Maybe, who knows what they're thinking of? To say it's dead and it's over, like, again, that's the hyperbolic sun-like headline, that like approach. Headlines are cool. You know, it's an Arsenal blow. It is a bit of a blow to Arsenal fans, but read through what's being said. I wouldn't be panicking at this moment in time. And if you don't sign him, though, Emil Smith Rowe is very, very talented, so I wouldn't be overly deterred. Next on the show, we're going to go to a Bayern Munich fan here. Jamie Mason is coming on the line. What are you saying, Jamie?
Hey, how you doing, Terry, mate?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. What do you want to say?
I just basically want to talk about the Lewandowski and the Leon Goretzka contract situations, because obviously, as you can tell, I'm a Bayern Munich fan. I just want to give some of your audience just a bit of a perspective, really.
Yeah, go for it.
So basically, with the Robert Lewandowski situation, it was around 2018. He basically came out in an interview, and after he signed the contract, basically said, "Oh, I didn't want to go to Madrid, but obviously I'm happy here." Because basically, with our board, you see, they're not as ambitious as like a lot of clubs, like the Premier League clubs, where they can spend big money. And at the moment, he's obviously, as you can tell, his agent's touting him to like Chelsea and other big clubs, and obviously his dream is to join Real Madrid. The problem we have at the moment is with the Leon Goretzka situation, which I'm going to get into right now, is that at the moment there's conflicting reports from Sports Build and that saying, oh, he wants 20 million. Some are denying it. Some are saying, obviously, you know, he wants to be paid close to that amount, which I think's fair. It's just at the moment, he's don't know if you know this, of course, he's got a new agent, the same agent as I think it was Manuel Neuer, because it's around February, March time around 2020 where he changed his agent and of course he managed to get him signed a new contract. I'm not gonna lie, Terry, I'm a little bit worried because you know, I don't want another David Alaba situation, I don't want a Thiago situation, because the problem I have with, for example, them two contracts, for example, and them two players, is that at the moment, you know, with Leroy Sané signing last summer, that's caused a triple effect now on the likes of Gnabry now saying he wants more money, Kimmich wants more money, and you got to remember them two are in the last 2 years of the contracts, and it's around the time where you negotiate. So I don't know, Taylor, man. Listen, don't get me wrong. Chelsea and Man United, you're going to get good players if you sign them. But I don't know, man. I'm just a bit annoyed because we're not making any moves at the moment, man. So, yeah.
But you know what you see, though, mate? What you get in football is whenever you gain success and then one person gets like a bumper new deal, it has a knock-on effect. It's one of the reasons why there's a lot of work to be done by Chelsea in relation to the Haaland deal that isn't directly about Chelsea Football Club. It's actually as in the transfer signing of Haaland. It's about Chelsea Football Club internally, because if he comes in on even Man City, same thing with City, looking at Harry Kane, if these players come in on 400 grand a week, there is a knock-on effect, there's a ripple effect and a knock-on effect. Other players, when it comes to renewals, want more money. So Haaland comes in, and let's say Haaland's no extra amount of money for Chelsea per month as a club, because they make up his 400k by getting rid of people. So actually, you save 400,000, but now you're giving it to Haaland. So you're no worse off. However, if 5 players in the next 12 months sign new deals and all get between 100 to 200, say they all get £150,000 each pay rises, and there's 5 of them, because they want to be closer to Haaland's money, If 5 of them get that update, that's £750,000 a week that's being spent extra over the course of a year. That's circa £40 million more that Chelsea are currently spending over the 5 years of those new contracts, which they typically are. That's £200 million additional that Chelsea have got to spend. Plus, then all the new signings they make in key positions that are considered stars all want to come in on higher money. So maybe all of Chelsea's new signings from that moment in time want an extra £85,000 a week on average compared to what they're demanding now at Chelsea because of the new wage structure that's now in place. So if you sign 5 players that are all earning £85,000 on average more over the next few years, that's an additional £425,000 a week, i.e. £22 million a year. You times that over a 5-year deal for these people, it's another 110 million. You plus that to the 195-ish that's already been increased for these. You're looking at somewhere in the region over a 5-year period of the club spending 300 to 350 million pounds more on salaries than their current projected wage structure is predicting. The clubs have to work out whether or not that is affordable. If it isn't, you get these Goretzka, you get these Varane situations where the club have to say to a star, we're just not budging and going any higher, because there comes a point where you've got to put a blocker out and say, we're just not giving anybody else any more pay rises, and you start a precedent. Man United started doing that 2 years ago, and our squad's improved, but our wage bill has dropped. Even though some people have had increases, our overall wage structure has decreased year on year. So you always get into these situations where salary starts to rise, and then there comes a point where you have to start making it go down. Otherwise, in 5-10 years' time, you're fucked. You're going to be spending more on salary. Like, it's crazy. It's so. It's not. By the way, that isn't 300 million more a year that we're spending. That's over a 5-year period. But if you then divide that over a 5-year period, that's still 61 million pounds a year more you've got to find. That you've got to get. It's hard to find that money. It's hard to find it. So listen, mate, a really good call. Thanks very much for coming on and having your say. I really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much indeed. John, my friend, thank you very much for becoming an Academy member of the Football Terrace. It means a great deal to us. It truly, truly does. Let's go to a few more comments here. We're going to go to CFC chats in the house. Man like Matt, what you saying, buddy? You're on mute, buddy. Thank you.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, first of all, guys, good evening. But yeah, Haaland, man, you know, as you guys were saying with Malen, I was going to come in here and talk about Malen, but Malen secured going to Dortmund, you know, this gives Chelsea the leverage to now fully book Haaland. And, you know, if you were saying to Abs before, confident about Haaland coming, I'm saying 100% he's going to be coming. I was so confident last week, and now coming into this week, coming to the end of this week, we've just seen so much more progression, and over time, it's going to just keep progressing and progressing. But I see with Haaland coming in, the decline of Rice will start to back out, and I don't see Rice coming in to Chelsea if Haaland come in too. I just don't see it this season. Apparently, there's been some talks between Tuchel and Rice. That Tuchel wants him. I'm not sure where I've seen that, but I've seen that. But I do not think that will happen. I don't think Rice will be coming this season.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens, mate, especially with Chelsea. If you don't get Rice and you don't get Haaland, what else is there? Like, you're not being linked. You're not being linked to anybody else. If you don't sign them and you just sign a fringe player or two, how fearful were you of moving into the next season being unprepared?
That's a very good question. I've got this question a lot, but my thing is, if we didn't sign a striker, say we don't sign Rice, anyone, we'll make top 4, but we're not going to win the Prem. And I don't think we'll have a chance at Champions League. And I think the only cups we can likely to be winning is the Carabao and the FA Cup. But I do not see us winning a high trophy without signing a player like Rice or Haaland. Definitely not.
I hear you on that completely, mate. I do. And what's your take on this news today? Harry Kane to City. Of course, some of the big tier ones have played it down, and we understand why. Do you think it's a deal that can be done this summer, or a little bit like Haaland? Do you think it will just taper away and maybe drag on until next summer?
Honestly, I think this might drag over. I mean, I was thinking Son will stay as well, because this Conference League, I mean, let's be honest, Tottenham will probably win a trophy this season from this Conference League. It's a rubbish league, but it's a trophy. And I think him may stay for this, and that's the same reason I was predicting Son. And Son now just came out literally now saying that he is going to be staying. So I do think this will possibly roll over to next season. I don't see Kane going this season. I think City have a massive team, and I do not see them getting Kane. I just don't see it.
There we go. Listen, bro, thank you very much for coming on and having your say. Really appreciate that, mate. Top man. Thank you. The baby's awake. I can hear baby. Listen, everyone who has tuned into the Football Terrace this morning, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Cannot express enough to you the pride it gives me every day to see so many thousands of people individual people tune into the Terrace. We actually had one of our biggest days ever yesterday with over 97,000 individual unique viewers tuning into different and various Football Terrace videos. So a massive thank you to each and every single one of you that makes that possible. Do me a favor and smash that like button right now, please. Let's get this stream past that. We can get this stream past that 500 like mark while we're live on the air, can't we? Right now, we can get that past the 500 like mark, I believe. So get that button smashed before we go off air right now. Chris, we'll see you later. Maria, yes, that is young Jackson there. He's actually quite nice. He's not crying. He's just talking to himself in bed. Like he does that. He just sits there laying talking to himself. So I like letting him do that, actually. It's quite good for their brain development, I've heard. But there we go. So thank you to every single one of you that's done that. I'll reiterate before I go my stance on a lot of these deals. Haaland to Chelsea, I believe, is still on. Whether or not they'll get the deal done or not is another question, but Chelsea are working on it. The Malen situation helps. Harry Kane to City is on. Is it as close as the Sun have made out? Absolutely not. I believe that is fabrication. Personally, I believe that is fabrication. James Maddison to Arsenal. I'll be very blunt about this. Arsenal can afford him. Ornstein has not confirmed that, but he's basically said, I didn't say they can't afford him. It may not be a priority for them now. That's also still sensible. They've received encouraging signs, Arsenal, from Leicester that a deal could be done. Maddison would like to join Arsenal. It's as simple and straightforward as this to me. Arsenal fans are not going to like what I'm about to say, but it's the truth as far as I'm concerned. The ball is in Arsenal's court. Will KSE sanction the spending? That's the big question. Maybe Arsenal fans think they don't need anybody else now because Emil Smith Rowe is signed and they move on to elsewhere. But it is a deal that can be done. I wouldn't be surprised to see some... I don't know who you all consider to be the best Arsenal journalists. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more people in the next 48 hours distancing themselves from Maddison now. Wouldn't be surprised. The same people that were pushing it only a few days ago in the build-up to the Emil Smith Rowe news, but there we go. Listen, everyone who was tuned in, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again.